There are a lot of great baseball players in the world right now, but there are really only two that are a tier above the rest, and that's the great Mike Trout and the Mookie Betts. Alex, take it.
Well, that kind of just fucked it for me, James. Thanks, bud. So, if you guys have been not living under a rock or in Bermuda, the Dodgers did just win the World Series, and there's been a pretty healthy debate on the World Wide Web and the Twitterverse and, MySpace or whatever, of, of who is officially the best player in baseball. For, I'd say, the last 8 years, it's been undeniable. The center fielder down there in Anaheim, Mr. Mike Trout. But with the recent success of Mookie Betts, he started to kind of creep into the conversation. And I thought it'd be interesting for us to talk about this as we have 2 Dodger fans and 3 Angel fans in this conversation. I'm hoping we can try to remain as unbiased as possible, but I have very little faith in us, to be completely honest. Just to give you some overall kind of numbers real quick. So Mookie Betts, he's been in the league 7 years. He's got an MVP. He's a 4-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger, 5-time Gold Glove winner, 2-time World Series champ. Mike Trout, on the other hand, not too shabby himself, 3-time MVP, 8-time All-Star, 8-time Silver Slugger, 2-time All-Star MVP, has only played in 1 postseason in his existence, and he got swept by the Kansas City Royals. So, James, since you started it off so sassy, I know you are a huge Angels fan, and I know Mike Trout is your dude down there. I'm going to assume that with your remarks to begin with, that you do not think Mookie has overtaken Mike Trout as the best player in baseball. How close is he getting?
I don't that close, mainly because you had mentioned it in your opening remarks. You said recently Mookie Betts has started becoming part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And Mike Trout's been doing this for a long time. And to be honest, they're only 1 year apart in age. So you can't even say the fact that Mookie Betts is like way younger, so he has more time to come up there. It's only 1 year. Mike Trout's 29, Mookie Betts is 28. So in reality, it's like Mike Trout's been doing this for a long time. So people become used to that production. And so people are no longer viewed as special. They expect it all the time. Mookie Betts, on the other hand, this production, he's good, but he's been great as of recently. Like this last year, he's been great. And so it's the new novel thing that people are now latching on to, like, oh, he's going to be great. He's going to be the new guy. He's going to be way better than Mike Trout. That was Cody Bellinger last year. People were talking about Cody Bellinger being better than Mike Trout because he had 1 great season. Okay, cool. This season, he didn't do so hot. Mike Trout's been doing well every single season. Even if he's injury plagued, even if he's on terrible teams, he still puts out great numbers. And he keeps his team afloat as best he can. It may not be winning records, but he's providing he has a pretty good WAR. I'm not sure what the number is, but I hear it every single time I listen to baseball or watch baseball games. It's pretty high up there, and it's like record breaking the way he's winning games. So if Mookie Betts can do it, put the same production up for the next 5 years, maybe he'd be up there. But it's like you said, it's recent.
Okay, so in reference to the WAR category, so WAR is, for those of you who don't know, I still don't exactly know how it's compiled, but it's wins above replacement. So it's pretty much how much better is your player compared to like the base average MLB player is generally kind of how it works. In active players, Mike Trout is second with 74.4 WAR. His teammate Albert Pujols is first with 100.6. Perspective, Mike Trout has played 10 years. Albert Pujols has played 20, and Trout has 3/4 of what Albert Pujols has. Mookie Betts is number 17 on the active list with 45.2 WAR. Tyler, I'm going to let you follow up. You were a former employee of the Red Sox. You are a lifelong Dodgers fan. I want you to give your opinion and then kind of maybe rebuttal what James said.
Yeah, so I think undeniably Mike Trout has been the best player in baseball the last, 8 seasons. Ever since he broke in the league, he's been so consistent. And I think sometimes we take that for granted, like how good he is, because he's just been so good year in, year out. Like as James mentioned, like we kind of expect it. That's just how he is. And, Mookie Betts is this new guy coming up and he's put together his last 3 seasons or so, been super great. And he's, you mentioned WAR, and yeah, Mike Trout has a better WAR, I think, in his career than Mookie Betts, but I think the last 3 seasons I saw stat, they're pretty much equal. So in the most recent years, Mookie Betts and Mike Trout have been pretty close. Overall, I would say that Mike Trout is probably the better player, especially as far as the career goes. But then I think Mookie Betts is just, I think, has more of the wow factor and is more exciting to watch. So it kind of depends on how you value, who's better or not. And then I think the biggest difference between the two is, their postseason experience. And that's not really Mike Trout's fault. Obviously, like the Angels management to give a good team around him is really poor. Mookie Betts, with the Red Sox and now the Dodgers, on teams that have put together amazing teams, and he's been able to be on these great championship teams that have allowed him to play on the biggest stage. And as we saw in 2020, he shines. Unfortunately, Mike Trout hasn't really gotten that opportunity, but that's not necessarily his fault. But I would say that October matters, and October, in terms of legacy, in terms of the best players shining in the brightest, the biggest stage, that matters. Derek Jeter wouldn't be Derek Jeter if not for all the success he had with the Yankees. It kind of reminds me of a different sport comparison, like Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning, like 2 very, very good quarterbacks, like pretty equal in terms of stats. But I think we all kind of consider Tom Brady a little better because he's won more Super Bowls than Peyton Manning has. I think this is kind of a similar comparison. Mookie Betts has won 2 already. Mike Trout, honestly, to be frank with you, Angels fans probably won't win one. Not with Angels. I mean, maybe if they turn things around like real quick, but the clock is ticking, and I think
only got 10 more years.
Yeah,
I was just saying. So
it's like
Mookie.
But it's Mike Trout now in his prime versus like it's going to take you I don't know how many years to build an Angels team that's going to be good enough to compete. I don't know. The Dodgers are competing now. The way I see it, I still think Mike Trout overall slightly out edges Mookie Betts. But man, it's a great debate. So I'm going to slightly pick Mike Trout by a fraction.
Okay, so you're saying that overall, but right now, is Mookie Betts, yes or no, better player than Mike Trout?
I'm still going to give the edge to Mike Trout.
Okay. Eric, question for you. So Mike Trout is obviously a very well-rounded player. So is Mookie Betts. Mookie's got 5 consecutive Golden Glove awards, which is the best player at his defensive position. Mike Trout has not won a single one. You're wearing your LA Kings jersey. We watched the LA Kings win 2 championships pretty much based off of defense. How important is that in your mind as the difference between those two? Because in my mind, that's the part that kind of separates them in some regard.
That does add in some more points for Mookie Betts. And, you saw it when he was on the Red Sox, when he won a World Series with them, making like crucial defensive plays. He for sure did that this year with the Dodgers, like, turning around almost like he's a receiver running a route, like on his back foot, turning around, just catching like a ball that could have been like a double or even a home run. Trout has random like plays like that, or Trout has some good plays where he jumps up on the fence and literally robs home runs. But yeah, it does give Mookie an edge defensively. The way I think of it is like Mookie is more of like a clutch guy in the postseason, but we've seen that because he's been in the postseason.
Yeah,
the Angels, they failed Mike Trout so far of just getting him into the playoffs that one time, and they got swept. He didn't have the best showing, but I think I compare it like Mookie's like a clutch, kind of like a Kevin Durant, like going to a good team, making him even better. Mike Trout's like currently like a James Harden, where like he's just super good, but like hasn't had a chance really to like prove himself. Well, I guess Harden's had chances in the playoffs, but you know,
I know. I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. And then Traden, I don't know if the viewers or listeners, I guess no one views us. Listeners have heard this about you, but I've heard you're a hockey guy.
Just
True?
a little bit.
Okay, cool. You were talking about this off air. So we were kind of comparing the Mike Trout versus Mookie Betts to the Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon. So give us your kind of thoughts on how these kind of two compare, and then I want to hear your thoughts on which one you think is better right now too, on the Mookie Mike thing.
Yeah. It's tough. This one's tough, just like that, just like the hockey one, because you're dealing with a Nathan McKinnon who's really, I mean, we knew he was been so good for so long, but he's really come in really strong, you know, as of late, you know, an MVP candidate in my opinion. You know, year after year, getting his team to the playoffs against a player who is generational, and I think we can all agree that Mike Trout is a generational player. He's one of the best players to ever play the game. I mean, that's how Connor McDavid will go down as being one of the greatest players to ever play the game as a whole. And having a, you know, Mike Trout having a Nathan McKinnon type of player coming in within Mookie Betts, you know, it's exciting to have these kind of conversations because you do have, you know, it is relevant. Mookie Betts should be in the debate for this, just like Nathan McKinnon should be in the debate in the NHL side. Do I think that Mookie Betts is better than Mike Trout? Do I think that, you know, just like I don't think that Nathan McKinnon is better than Connor McDavid? No. Mike Trout, as you guys have said, he's been doing it for longer. It's almost expected of him. His biggest issue, in my opinion, is the fact that he's not only on a bad team, but he's on a team that is in a small market. You put him on, you put him on
Yankees.
I know the Yankees are good, but the Yankees are not, you know, obviously are not the Dodgers. You put him on a team that actually, you know, everyone kind of knows and everyone follows. Everyone gets to see him. You know, we all got to see because the Dodgers made it to the World Series. They won the World Series. Interestingly, regarding this conversation, and I didn't even bring this up with you, Alex, prior while you were thinking about this topic. I asked this question to our buddy in Indiana, Matt Rivera. I asked him the same question because he's a baseball guy. He played baseball, and his answer was, well, Mike Trout's, you know, better baseball player, but Mookie Betts is probably the more exciting one. He's got flash. He's got pizzazz. You know, when I didn't really get to watch him play until this World Series, he was damn fun to watch. And I really did not want the Dodgers to win. I really didn't. But every time that he was up, you know, on the plate or, you know, rounding the bases, he was electrifying, and it's fun to watch. And that draws you in. And I think that fact alone is what really is bringing Mookie Betts to the front, you know, of the class. Maybe it's a little bit of recency bias, but that it's fair recency bias because he's proving it. He's you know, it's not just that he had, you know, 2 steals in the first game or whatever he did. Like, you know, that's
Mookie did get his free tacos.
He did get a free tacos.
That is really important.
Mike Trout has never done that.
That's true. He hasn't
never done that.
But
Not
just
his fault,
given
though, Tyler.
Just given the fact that Mike Trout's been doing this for so long, I think, you know, and it's kind of expected of him, and he doesn't really skip a beat. It is kind of what to me puts him over the edge quite handedly. I will say this, and I think everyone in this podcast and their grandmothers will agree with me. Please, for the love of God, let there be an Angels-Dodgers World Series, because that's where you prove it. In the next 10 years, both of them have 10 years or whatever, we need a World Series between these two teams, and that is what that's the kind of thing that I think I'll watch that over you know, an NHL you know, Stanley Cup final. I'm not even kidding.
Those are big words.
That would be just unbelievable.
Okay. That's a lot to process. I don't know how I feel about that. You're supposed to be our hockey guy.
Yeah.
Now a baseball guy.
Yeah. Yeah, big baseball guy trading over there. So for me, I think how it's going to end up, say 40 years from now, if we're still doing this podcast, God forbid, Mike Trout will probably go down as one of the top 5 best position players of all time in the, with the Babe Ruths and the Mickey Mantles and the Willie Mays. But I think right now, Mookie Betts is a better overall player. His defense is better. He runs the base pass better. He doesn't get hurt as much. I'm not even basing this off of how good his teams are. Mike Trout's got a little bit more power. Mookie doesn't strike out as much. It's so close, but I think right now Mookie is the better player. We could be 2 weeks into the season, assuming we have a next season, and I could change my mind. So Tyler, you already kind of gave us your answer. Traden, I think you're sticking with Mike Trout, right?
Yeah. I mean, okay. It's razor thin right now, like you said, but
right now, yeah. Okay, so Eric, right now, just who's a better player?
Right now, I'd say Trout by a smidget of a hair, like Tyler said. But I have a random question for you. You just sparked my mind. Do you think teams key in on Mookie as hard as they do Trout, on the scouting report? They have pitchers, the pitching is set
intentionally
to
walking them.
I'm sure
Mookie's the first batter, right? The leadoff hitter.
I'm sure
the cleanup.
I'm sure they do, anything? And then they look at the rest of the lineup and they go, "Oh shit! NLCS and World Series MVP Corey Seager, Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Will Smith, Cody Bellinger." Mike Trout's got Rendon. If he's got Ohtani, the Angels lineup is pretty good, but it's when you see good. Mike Trout in that lineup, and then the rest of it. It's a little different than Mookie and Cody and Corey and all these guys.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at.
Yeah, I feel that.
So let me ask you this, Alex.
Yeah.
If I were to give you, if you had to trade, just straight up trade the players, would you trade them?
No, I'd keep Mookie.
What if the Dodgers lost this year? Would you do the trade?
No, I still wouldn't do it. I think the fact that Mookie, there's other circumstances involved too, not just player for player. I think the person that Mookie is, Mike Trout is a pretty low key dude.
Yeah.
He likes the weather. That's his shit outside of baseball. He likes talking about the weather. And I think for Mookie, being an African American and playing on the Dodgers is such a huge aspect for him. And I think that's so cool. That's one of the bigger reasons I would never want to trade him. Okay, James, you're the only one who hasn't given us a definitive.
Mike Trout by a whole hair.
One whole hair.
One whole hair.
By a whole hair on Tyler's chinny chin.
It's better than razor thin.
Those little baby hair. Yeah, that is. Yeah. Okay. You guys let us know what you think. If there's someone else out there, I don't know who it would be, but you let us know. Other than that, I'm done, James.
So that's a debate that we're going to have for probably forever. It'll probably never be settled, but it's fun to do it anyway.